So this video was inspired by watching a few other YouTube videos and listening to how some YouTubers had been caught out, I guess you could say, by the tax man or woman, as they just weren't aware of taxation. In one video, I think someone was selling something. I think it was apps, maybe. I'm not sure. And didn't declare the income, or didn't think they should declare the income because it was small. I think in another one I caught someone talking about making money and then just again not declaring the income. As such, I thought about talking about my experience with YouTube and taxation. I thought that would be a good idea. So without any further ado, here we go. I should preface this, and I'll also end with this as well, or something similar to this. I should also note, or I will note, that I am not a tax advisor or accountant or financial professional, and this video should not be construed as such. Seek out your own financial advice. This video is for entertainment purposes only. With that being said, let's begin. So, my experience with taxation starts with being self-employed. There's criteria for this that you can find online to decide for yourself if you are self-employed. I must also say that this experience applies to the United Kingdom. Where was I? Right, yes. So online to decide, go online and you can decide for yourself if you are self-employed. So I decided whether I was employed or self-employed with regards to YouTube. I picked self-employed. Then I had to research my tax liability for my country, so the UK. So I live in the UK, so I pay income tax and national insurance, as does everyone. But I also pay a student loan contribution as I went to university. So that was my position. I then had to understand how taxation works with regards to self-employment. I mainly had to learn the thresholds, the different bands of what one earns and the different tax positions of what you have to pay. Employment is rather quite easy. You're taxed at source via, I think it's called payee. But self-employment, you have to record your income and expenses, know your tax thresholds, and fill in a self-assessment tax return on all your income for that year. So if you are self-employed and pay no VAT, value-added tax, you fill in a self-assessment form. That is the, I think, short version. If you are self-employed and pay VAT, you fill in a self-assessment return. That is the full version. I think of the short and full assessment forms. Oh, hang on. Yeah, I think of the short and full self-assessment forms as the main forms to fill in every year, depending on which one is relevant to your business. But if you receive income that isn't taxed at source from anywhere else, you have to declare that income on supplementary forms. I think such as employment. Yes, supplementary forms such as employment, even if you have already paid tax through payee and property, etc. You then send the self-assessment with or without supplementary forms as needed to the tax office, who then send you a nice big fat tax bill to pay. Woo! Yeah! As I understand it, the tax bill is for the previous tax year that runs from the 6th of April of one year to the 5th of April the next. You pay the tax bill for the previous year on either the 31st of October, paper submissions, or the 31st of January after the tax year ends, regarding online submissions. But you don't just pay tax on profits for the previous tax years. Oh no! You also have to pay something called payments on account. So these are tax payments you pay early for the next year, and these payments are half of what your tax bill was for the last year. So as I understand it, and remember, I'm not an accountant, so check with a professional. Checking with a professional is actually a really good idea, as I'm pretty sure it's standard practice for the initial and subsequent meetings and advice to be free. Or at least it was with the accountancy firm I liaised with. The Good Accountant. I have a video about that, The Good Accountant, somewhere on the channel. You can check that out if you want to. Anyway, so as I understand it, let's say last year's tax liability for your business is £50,000. This means the tax office will assume you will make £50,000 again in your next year, that you pay early, 50%. So £25,000 on October or January 31st, whenever you submit. And then 50%, £25,000 again in July. So you pay off the £50,000, which is your tax bill for the previous year, plus an extra £25,000 as tax that the tax office assumes you'll make in the next year in October or January 31st when you submit, and then in July you pay another £25,000 to equal the £50,000. If your true tax liability for the next year is more than what the tax office assumed, so more than the £50,000, you have to make a balancing payment as you owe more tax because you made more. If you make less than what the tax office assumed, I think you get the tax back. Since we've been talking about tax, which you only pay on profits, but you can also pay tax voluntarily. Again, speak to an accountant. But the gist is that you can pay, I think, Class 2 national insurance voluntarily to protect legacy benefits, like the state pension. Let me think, what else? I think you can also pay Class 2 voluntary contributions if you also make a loss as well. Let me think. Oh yes, towards losses. With being a sole trader, you can offset any losses against a future profitable tax year to reduce your profit, and in practice reduce your tax liability for that year. Yay, less tax, right? Great. But if you pay less tax, that also means less profit as well. But of course, the aim of business is always profit, profit, profit. As well, year-on-year losses are pretty much, business deaths, and you have to make a profit, otherwise, you're not really in business if you don't make money. When it comes to recording your income and expenses, accounting as a sole trader business, I use cash basis. This is where you track the money the business receives or spends from the business account. I chose cash basis as it's easier than accrual accounting, or traditional accounting, I think it's called. The documents I use to record my income and expenses are income statement made up of sales, bank expenses, cash expenses, cash flow made up of cash flow forecast, profit and loss account, and balance sheet. Those are the business documents I use as a sole trader. Meeting with accountants is great, as I actually got those business documents for free from a local accountant during the initial meeting. So if you're in the market for an accountant, when you meet your accountant, I guess a top tip, I think, would be ask them if they offer any free templates for you to record your income on. With that being said, I think that is all I have to say about my experience of taxation. Oh no, no, it's not. Register. Oh my God, yes, register. If you're thinking of self-employment, creating YouTube or anything to do with self-employment, yes, register. Register for self-employment. As I think how it works is that you're classed as self-employed even if you aren't registered and not making a profit in your business. If the intent is there to make a profit, registering is a must. Otherwise, the tax office, the tax man, tax woman, is not going to be happy if you miss deadlines and fines have to be paid. With that being said, I think that is everything I have to say about my experience with tax. I've provided a very light idea of my experience of taxation, business and YouTube. As I've already said, seek out your own tax advice. I'm not an accountant. This video is for entertainment purposes only. As you've probably guessed, tax, YouTube, business, I think when it comes down to it, it's all about research and making sure you do your own due diligence and liaising with people, more qualified than yourself, qualified professionals, to make sure that you are doing everything right. I am not that I am not that qualified professional. I'm just some average guy just trying to do everything above board, right, legal. As I don't want to end up, with fines or, making mistakes. I don't want any, slack wrists from, the taxman or the taxwoman. I don't like fines, or red wrists, for that matter. With that being said, what is your experience with YouTube tax and business? Mine has been rather quite enlightening, I would say, and fun. As I said, it's all about research, and I really like learning new things. So self-employment, learning about taxation, learning about self-employment, learning about accountancy, and recording my income and my expenses. It's a skill, I think, and I'm slowly picking everything well up. As I said, what's your experience with YouTube tax and business? And ultimately, thank you for listening.